this video, I want to walk you through three unpopular opinions that I have about grad school, and really specifically about your success in grad school. What contributes to your success and what really doesn't, but we might think it does. If you don't know me, I am Dr. Elena Reister. I got my PhD in chemistry, and on this channel, I make videos like these that help you become a more efficient researcher. In this video, I'm going to walk you through these three unpopular opinions I have that might bust some myths you have and help you to actually be more productive and more efficient and get your time back. So, the first unpopular opinion I have is that it actually doesn't matter the amount of time that you are spending at school. And the more time you spend at school is not going to make you more successful. Especially when I first entered grad school, I used to, have a romantic idea about all these late nights that I would spend making these scientific discoveries. In reality, though, all the late nights really didn't add up to much, right? In the beginning, I did spend a lot of time. I was working usually at least 6 days a week, if not 7 days a week. And I was probably working 10-hour days. And this was one because the first lab I was in, that was kind of the norm. And two, because I thought that the more I worked, the better I was going to be as a researcher and a scientist. And ultimately, as anyone who's been in grad school for a while, this only led to burnout and frustration and me hating grad school and not wanting to be there anymore. So I pivoted and I actually focused on how do I work less, but actually get more done. And a common theme I found is if I was already planning on being at school 7 days a week, there were too many things that would happen. One, when I was at school, I wouldn't necessarily spend most of my time doing work. I would spend time socializing, checking out social media on my phone, watching shows at my desk, all of those things that weren't actually helping me become more productive, but were sucking my time away and taking my freedom away. The second thing I found is I would often push off things that I didn't want to do into the weekend. And then on the weekend, I didn't want to do them. So I pushed them off into the next week and it would just keep spiraling out of control, pushing things off further and further down the line and never actually getting to them. So, how do I change this? How do I become more productive while not spending tons and tons of time at school? Well, it's actually really simple. When you're at school, set a specific schedule for the time that you're there. You know what you have to get done to be productive. And so make sure that you get all of that done in the time. And what you might find is that you can actually become very, very efficient. And you might actually be able to do all of your graduate work, if not more, in 40 hours a week and have all that extra time to yourself. If you take out a lot of the socializing and other things that you're probably doing during grad school. I mean, when I looked around at my colleagues that were there 6 days a week, I would say that they probably worked maybe 2 to 3 hours a day each of those days. The other times they were at their desk, they were, looked like they were doing work, but overall, they weren't actually doing things that helped them actually move forward in their research or even in grad school. And so take a, assessment of what are you doing during your time at school and how much of that is actually helping you move towards getting that degree or completing that research. And if it's not, maybe it's something that needs to get cut out so that you can spend more time doing the things you actually love and not get burnt out. My second unpopular opinion is that knowing all the answers is not going to make you more successful in grad school. In fact, when I actually did my dissertation defense, so going up, getting my degree in analytical chemistry, I actually got asked a question in my dissertation defense that I had absolutely no idea. It was the chemical bond energy for a certain type of bond. And the committee member asked me the question. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know that answer. And then they were like, oh, no, you can give it to me in these different units. And I was like, honestly, I didn't know those were the units for that answer. I don't know that answer. And there was like this long silence as the committee member tried to figure out what to say. And then another person on my committee actually was like, you know what? We don't actually expect her to know that because that committee member was actually outside of my type of chemistry. I wasn't expected to know something that I could spend hours memorizing a chart so that I could have gotten that question right, which would have had no effect on me actually being able to get my PhD. because obviously I passed without knowing the answer to that question. And so think about how much time do you spend trying to memorize answers that might help you answer a question here or there, but ultimately doesn't drive your research forward. I could have spent hours memorizing that table of chemical bond energies. But in reality, I wouldn't have known which question they were going to ask me. Were they going to ask me about a chemical bond energy? Were they going to ask me about pKa's? Were they going to ask me about any number of charts that I could be memorizing? If I am so focused on never getting a question wrong or not knowing something, I will spend my entire PhD worried about memorizing things instead of about actually learning and getting research done. Now, if there are things that are really important to your research. I'm not saying don't memorize those. What I'm saying is don't try and memorize everything so that you always know the answer. Instead, try and learn and develop critical thinking skills because that's what ultimately your PhD is about. And I think that's a turn that a lot of people need to take from undergrad to grad school because undergrad was all about what you knew. You were always tested on what you knew. Grad school isn't as much about what you know as can you think critically and come up with new ideas and figure out how to research those ideas. So if you can make that transition, you're actually going to save yourself a ton of time. And if you put that time into working on your research, you'll become more successful than if you would have known all of the answers. And my third unpopular opinion is that reading more is not going to help you become more successful. This is probably one of the myths that is just propagated in grad school that you always need to be looking at the literature, reading more research papers, reading reviews, stay on top of your field. I've heard this all the time. And the people that followed that, I saw people who had to read at least 5 research papers a week. I'm going to be honest, I don't actually know if I have fully read through a single research paper that I did not write. I honestly I've even given presentations on papers that I did not fully read every sentence in that paper because ultimately that was not productive for me. And I would say for 99% of grad students, they are probably reading way too much and not also putting in that practice. I'm never going to understand what a paper means unless I actually go try and do that. And then I'm going to understand the nuances that that paper has, where I don't understand that if I haven't been in the lab doing those things, or if I haven't been writing that or analyzing that type of data. So that's a major key is that spending all of your time reading a bunch of papers may not actually be as beneficial as you think it is. Now, it might be nice because when your professor brings up a paper and you've read it, you know about it, you look good, but that's 5 minutes of fame for how much time did it take you to read that paper when you could have been doing things that were more productive. Now, I realize that these are unpopular opinions, but if these kind of start resonating with you, I really suggest you check out my 30-day research jumpstart guide. It really helps you take these kind of thoughts about being an efficient researcher and helps you learn what papers to actually look at, how to look at them, and then how to start developing your ideas and gathering consistent publishable data for your research ideas within 30 days. So make sure you check that out. The link will be in the description below, and it's completely free to get access to. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you take an assessment of what have you been doing of those 3 things. Have you been spending time where you're not getting results? Are you spending time trying to memorize answers so that you can feel like you're successful, but you're not actually moving the needle forward on what is actually going to make you successful in grad school? And are you reading papers over and over again to feel like you're being productive? And is that even actually making you productive? I hope this was really helpful and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.